Hey guys, I'm here today to talk about some of the many books that are coming out in 2019 that I'm super excited about. So, I've seen quite a few people do videos like this now and I've been loving them, but at the same time I've been greatly admiring them for being able to fit all their anticipated releases in one video. That's not going to be possible, guys. So what I've decided to do is to split this into quarters. So I'm going to talk about the books I'm excited about that are coming out in January, February and March of 2019 today, and then I'll have videos coming up in the future where I talk about the next few months. I love looking into new releases, and right now I'm excited about getting to all of these, but one thing I will say at the start of this video is that when you think about books that are coming out and add them to a list before they've even been released, then unless you have previously read a book by that author, you're basing it entirely on the blurb, and that blurb could be amazing, but the writing style may not work for you, right? So right now I'm really excited about all these books, and some of these books I will buy on the day they come out and I won't wait to hear any reviews. But there's a few that, because it's a debut novel maybe, or I don't know much about the author, I'm really excited about the premise, but I will wait until I hear more reviews. So you may not necessarily see all of these books on my channel being hauled and read, because I may end up thinking that one of them doesn't sound like it's for me. But right now I'm super excited about all of these and I'm planning to pick them up, some of them quicker than others. So let's go. Oh, another thing is I'm not going to tell you like the individual dates these come out because I'm lazy, so I'm just going to split this into like January, February, March, and also the majority of these are UK release dates, but I may mention a couple of indie press books from the US, and that's because I'm impatient and some of these books may not get picked up in the UK, and so I'm just going to like order them from the indie presses in the US or Canada. Okay, enough preamble, let's go. So there's 4 books coming out in January, and I'm going to get the one out of the way that might be a little bit surprising, and that is The Wicked King by Holly Black. So I read The Cruel Prince earlier in the year and I picked it up because I used to read Holly Black as a teenager and I really loved her books, and I felt like reading some sort of fast-paced, easier reads, and I was super absorbed by it. And I said in the video that it felt like candy in that I couldn't stop gobbling it up. Like, I read it so quickly. I was even cooking and holding the book, which is really rare for me. But at the end, I felt a little bit like let down by it. Almost like when you eat too many sweets and you feel like, you know, you get a sugar rush and then a sugar low and your teeth ache and you feel a bit groggy and rough and you know it wasn't nutritious. That's how I felt after reading it. But yeah, I still want that buzz. I'm still willing to go for the buzz and deal with the low afterwards. So so I'm excited about it, even though the end of the last book was annoying, and there's loads of issues with the book. I'm still excited about it and will be reading it in January, so shocker. So yeah, let me know if that one is on your list as well. I'm sure that's on lots of people's lists. The next one is the one I'm most excited about in January, and I'll be picking this one up immediately, like I won't be waiting for any reviews, and that's because I adored this author's short story collection, Don't Try This at Home. So this novel is called Something Like Breathing and it's by Angela Redman, and look at that glorious cover, it's so beautiful. I could not be more excited about this. As soon as I saw Angela Redman had a novel coming out, I was like, I'm going to buy it whatever it's about because her short stories were amazing. But then when I heard what it was about, I just was beyond excited. So this is set on a remote Scottish island, tick, in the 1950s, tick, and it's about 2 young girls and their friendship blossoming, tick, tick, tick. So yeah, just cannot wait to read this. You guys know I love books about young girls, I love books set on islands, and I love both those things in particular when they're set in a historical setting. So cannot wait for this one, very excited. The next book I've seen on lots of people's anticipated releases videos, and this is The Binding by Bridget Collins. So this is one that I'm going to wait to hear more reviews on because part of me thinks this could be amazing and there's a little part of me that thinks maybe it will be a letdown, so we shall see. So this is about a man who works for a bookbinders and he makes these beautiful volumes, but within these volumes he is storing memories. So this sounds like it has a bit of a sci-fi twist to what otherwise sounds like sort of gothic historical fiction novel. I'm assuming from the description that this is historical fiction. I could be wrong. So this one sounds like it could be really good, but I'm a tad like just have some reservations, so I'll wait to hear some more reviews about this one. The next one is Wolf Country by, and I apologise if I say this incorrectly, Tunda Farrand. So this is a dystopian novel set in London. It sounds really amazing, and there's an excerpt online where you can read like a bit out of the novel, and I really enjoyed the writing style. So that always sways me. I really like with you know, new releases when they give you an excerpt, because if not, like I said, you're just basing it on plot alone. I used to love reading dystopian novels, and I sort of fell out of doing it, and recently I've picked a few more up, and I'm really looking forward to trying to read a lot more this year. And this one sounds like a really amazing one, so I'm looking forward to this one. So February is an amazing month for new releases, and I feel like February always is. I think there's like some publication windows, and February must be one of those. There's loads of amazing books coming out. So the first one is The Dreamers by Karen Thompson Walker. Now, I've yet to read The Age of Miracles, and actually I owned it for quite a few years, and then I unhauled it, which I'm sure Jen would never forgive me for, because I know it's one of her favourite books and she's always told me to read it. So I love the sound of this one, and I'm going to read it, and if I love it I will of course pick myself up a copy of The Age of Miracles again and give it a chance, which I so unfairly didn't previously. So this one also has a sort of sci-fi twist. It's set in a small Californian town, and a sleeping epidemic takes over the town. So people just don't stop sleeping, and everyone's concerned that some people may die in their sleep because obviously they're not taking in fluids or nutrients. So it just sounds like a really interesting concept, and I'm looking forward to this one as well, obviously, otherwise it wouldn't be in this video. Now I'm going to talk about a few epic fantasy books, and the big one that is on everybody's list is Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. So I think this is going to be part of an epic fantasy trilogy that's inspired by African mythology. It says it's genre busting, and oddly, it sounds like it may have some tropes in the description. I mean, all epic fantasy does. It's about this group of people who go on this quest, and I think there's some person they're trying to find or something or other. But it sounds like lots of the types of characters are really different to what we're used to seeing in epic fantasy. I haven't read any Marlon James, and I've always been interested in reading some of his books. But it's always exciting when somebody who's known for writing serious literary novels decides to write an epic fantasy. So I'm very intrigued by this one. The next epic fantasy is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Now, I haven't read her previous books. I think it was called, oh god, something to do with bones, the bone season maybe, and I never really felt compelled to pick those ones up, but these ones sound pretty interesting, so I'm going to give them a go. So this is an epic fantasy series set in a queendom, and it's a queendom without an heir, and the east and the west are coming into a conflict, and we follow two female characters on either side of this conflict, and I believe there's also lots of dragons. Now, I'm not a massive fan of dragons in fantasy, sacrilege I know, but I'm willing to overlook that. I mean, I sort of have to overlook it because they're very prevalent in epic fantasy. I've just never really been a fan of them. I think they're a little bit arrogant, but yeah, but I'm going to give this book a go anyway. The next book also has dragons. In fact, it's the first book in a series which is called A Chorus of Dragons, so as I said, can't avoid them. This one's a debut novel by Jen Lyons called The Ruin of Kings. So this one is proclaiming that it's the most anticipated fantasy release of 2019. I feel like the publishers just like decide that statement themselves, and then everyone else starts parroting it. But it does sound pretty interesting. So what Jen Lyons has done here is she's taken a lot of fantasy tropes, the idea of a chosen one, somebody who doesn't realise they have royal birth, and she's taken a character who fits that mould, but then she's flipped the story, so the trajectory you expect to see in an epic fantasy of that nature doesn't occur, and instead something else happens. So I'm intrigued. This sounds like it could be quite pacey and plot driven, and I usually read much slower epic fantasy, but, and this may sound bad to some people, I want to make a really conscious effort to, and to be honest, always have made a really conscious effort to try and read epic fantasy by female authors, and that's because I get sick of poor representation of women in fantasy books, and I feel like female authors tend to do it better. And so there is less female fantasy authors published. It's getting better, but it's still pretty poor in comparison, and so I really want to try and support female fantasy authors, and so, you know, even if the book doesn't necessarily sound like it's completely the sort of thing I want to read, I want to give it a go, just because there's not many epic fantasy series that are being published by female authors for adult readers. So yeah, I'm going to give this one a go as well. And then the next one is The Raven Tower by Anne Leckie. Now, Anne Leckie is a pretty well-known science fiction author, and I've always meant to pick up her science fiction books. I think the first one was Ancillary Justice. I'm not sure if it was, but that was one of the books in this series anyway. And I heard loads of people who have similar reading taste to me really rave about that series. But I don't tend to read much sci-fi, which is something I'd like to rectify, but I know I enjoy fantasy a lot more. So this is the first book in an epic fantasy series by her. I don't really know what it's about, but just on her name alone, I'm willing to give this one a go, and fingers crossed it's the start of a great new series. This next one is Savage Conversations by Leanne Howe. Now this is an indie press release from Coffee House Press in the US, and it doesn't currently have a publication date that I know of in the UK. I'm going to actually read you the blurb on this one because it's very odd sounding and I don't think I'll do it justice. May 1875. Mary Todd Lincoln is addicted to opiates and tried in a Chicago court on charges of insanity. Entered into evidence is Miss Lincoln's claim that every night a savage Indian enters her bedroom and slashes her face and scalp. She is swiftly committed to Bellevue Place Sanitarium. Her hauntings may be a reminder that in 1862, President Lincoln ordered the hanging of 38 Dakotas in the largest mass execution in the United States history. No one has ever linked the two events until now. Savage Conversations is a daring account of a former First Lady and the ghost that tormented her for the contradictions and crimes on which this nation is founded. I think that sounds phenomenal, and cannot wait to pick it up. The next one is another big release, and that's The Heavens by Sandra Newman. And this is another one that I'm a little bit unsure about. It sounds like it could be really good. It also sounds like it may tip over a little bit into cheesy, so I'm going to wait for more reviews when it comes out, but it does sound very compelling, so hopefully it will be amazing. So this is about a couple who meet in Manhattan in the year 2000, and they're surrounded by all this rapid modernisation, and they become a couple, and then the woman starts to talk about these dreams she's had since childhood, where she goes back to the 1800s and she's a noblewoman, and at first her partner isn't really concerned, and then it starts to get increasingly real, and he starts to question her reality. So I think this may be like a time slip novel where she is actually going back. I'm unsure, but I don't tend to read books like that, and this is a big chunky book that's getting loads of hype. So chunky books that get loads of hype are always quite exciting, so I'm going to listen out for some more about this when it comes out. The next one is The Very Beautiful in the Nightwood by Dale Bailey. So this is about a couple who buy, I think they receive a house, and they inherit a house in the woods after the death of one of their children, and they decide to go live in this house, and sort of fairy tales and myths begin to haunt them, and it's all about the entanglement of magic and memory. This sounds like it could be really beautifully written and quite sad, but I'm willing to give this one a go. I think this sounds like it could be quite eerie and magically beautiful. The next one is Mouthful of Birds by Samantha Sweplin. Now, I feel awful because I still haven't read Fever Dream, which I know so many people have loved over the last couple of years. I still have it on my shelf. I still intend to read it. And I feel bad putting her short story collection on here as a book I'm excited about when I haven't yet read her novel, but I'm really excited by her novel. I feel like I will love it, so what I'm going to do is read the novel, and if I do love it then allow myself to pick this one up. This is a short story collection that focuses on weird, slightly edging on horror tales. So yeah, this one sounds really intriguing, and once I've read her novel I will let myself pick this one up. The last book coming out in February that I'm excited about is Sea Monsters by, let me check this, Chloe Arregis. I've probably butchered that. So this follows two teenagers in 1980s Mexico who skip school and get on a bus together and sort of start to go on this epic journey of discovery where they meet all different types of people. And I just want to read you this bit because this makes it sound amazing. A tale of adolescence, transgression and disenchantment in late 1980s Mexico, a place of long nights, insistent sun and relentless rain. Sea Monsters is an intoxicating evocation of past selves and buried histories, the pull of fantasy colliding with the stark light of reality, a dreamlike yet vivid novel about the moments and mysteries that shape us. So I think that one sounds amazing. So in February there's 3 books I'm excited about, and 2 of those are quite big releases. So the first one is Gingerbread by Helena Oyeyemi. I've read most of Helena Oyeyemi's previous books and really enjoyed them, so I'm very excited about this one. So this is a modern day take on gingerbread as a storytelling device in fairy tales. So this follows a mother and daughter, and they've inherited this family recipe for gingerbread which they ship to this village, this rural village that isn't actually on a map, and they don't sell to locals, and it follows this weird fantastical tale of the legacy of this gingerbread. It sounds really odd and bizarre, which I love and I'm totally game for. So the next one is Lani by Max Porter. Now again, this one's a bit naughty of me because I haven't read Grief is the Thing with Feathers. I know, I'm sure I love it, I don't know why I haven't read it, so I'm going to try and make myself read that one first and then pick this one up. Although to be honest, I do prefer the sound of this one in terms of themes. So this is set in a small village outside of London, and it says it follows the inhabitants of this village who've lived there for over 100 years, and then it goes on to describe all these inhabitants who all sound like archetypes of the sort of people who live in rural villages. It just sounds really sort of old English fable-esque, and I'm very excited about it, and you know, would like to also try and read his previous novel. So the last book coming out in March that I want to talk about is The Choke by Sophie Laguna. Now that beautiful cover certainly helps, but also this follows the story of a young girl. I love stories about young girls. So yeah, we started the video, we didn't start the second book, and the last book is a story about a young girl. So yeah, this young girl is very neglected. Her mother leaves and she very rarely sees her father, and she finds solace in the local river, and it's about as her sort of sanctuary starts to be threatened, and following her journey as she tries to survive. That doesn't give very much away, but it sounds really amazing, and all the descriptions of the writing style make it sound really beautiful and lyrical, which I love. So do please let me know if any of these books are on your anticipated releases list, and also let me know if you think there's any books I've missed that I would find interesting, or others down below in the comments would find interesting. I'd love to know your thoughts. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!